Hey there, I am Christy Ruffino, former broke single mom turned CEO of 2 six-figure businesses and best-selling author with 15 books. But it wasn't always like this. Not long ago, I was a hot mess. Yes, I did a lot of things right, but mostly I was throwing spaghetti on the wall to see what would stick. Fast forward past many failed attempts and a few incredible victories, I not only get to share what I've learned along the way, I get to bring together top influencers as they share their empowering stories, insider secrets, and valuable resources that can be used right now to step into your power. So, if you're an ambitious entrepreneur, or possibly one in the making, and you're looking to create a business and life that lights you up, well, then you're in the right place. Well, hello, and welcome to another episode of the Mastery Unleashed podcast. I am Christy Ruffino, the host of the show, and today I have the pleasure of introducing you to one of my mentors. Because on our show, we typically talk about topics related to life and business, and today we're going to be really focusing on mindset that can be adapted to your life and business as well. And so today I have Matthew Lerner on the show, and Matthew is a thriving entrepreneur and rapid results therapist. He has a huge mission in the world to help people create a life they truly love. And in his one-on-one or group therapy coaching programs, you will find solutions, techniques, and systems to create that exact ideal outcome for you, your business, your team, and your entire company. Matthew always delivers performance-based results with life-changing integrity to entrepreneurs, teams, and companies, and he guarantees his results, which is amazing. And I met Matthew, oh my gosh, it's probably been about 6 months ago now, and I am constantly learning things from him. I'm constantly being challenged by him. And today is going to be a show where you're going to take a boatload of notes. I took a bunch of notes and I've been around him a while. And today is going to be so packed and so juicy that you're going to be hooked on our show, which is cool. That's my goal. So without further ado, let's get on with the show so you can see or hear firsthand the brilliance of Matthew learning. Welcome, everybody, to today's show. This is Christy, and I'm excited to have Matthew learning with us today. Welcome, Matthew.
Hello. Welcome, everybody listening.
This is going to be fun. I have known Matthew for just a short while, but that short while has been very powerful. I've gotten to know him. He's gotten to know me. It's been exciting and a little scary. Matthew is one of my coaches, one of my mentors, and he is brilliant. So I'm super excited about how today is going to unfold. Matthew is an expert at a few things, but today we're going to be talking specifically how we can turn stress and fear into love and money. Matthew, how did you get into, what is the story behind how you got to where you are right now in your career?
Okay, thanks, Christy. Here's the story. Imagine I am 25 years old. So this is 8 years ago. 25 years old. I am in the bedroom of my place in Victoria, British Columbia, up in Canada, and I'm having a call with my dad. At the time, I was doing network marketing. I was working for a company which I very much enjoyed. The product saved my life. I had a near-death experience a few months before that with autoimmune disease and neurological dysfunction. I couldn't walk upstairs. My tailbone was going numb. It was terrible. So I had a rough go when I was in my mid-20s. And then network marketing saved my health and brought me into the world of love and money, actually. So I was on the phone with my dad this one afternoon. I was telling him how excited I was to be working with the top money earner in the company, multi-millionaire. He got a whiff of my drive, my skill set. And so the top earner in the company wants to work with me. I call my dad. I said, this is so amazing. Can you believe it? My career is going to take off. And my dad's response is this: oh God, that's why I hate those things. That's why I hate those people. They do none of the work and they make all the money. It's sort of a classic MLM belief system for people who've never done it.
Yeah.
And
and that's like old school thinking, right? Like your dad came from old school thinking
yeah. That's right. Just for the background. Yeah. My dad came from old school thinking. He was an employee, worked a job his whole life, making 55, 60K a year.
Yeah.
Therefore,
Hustle. Yeah.
Growing up, I thought that was a good amount of money. I thought 60K was like a heroic amount of money, And my dad's a great guy, great person. That's just how he was raised in the prairies in Canada on the farm style. I'm on the phone with my dad. He says that. My heart sinks. I think, oh my God, am I doing something wrong? What's going on here? But then, and here's the key piece for the listener. I remembered a piece of advice that my mentor had given me a few months beforehand. Thankfully, I was ready to receive his blow, which is that people who have really crappy beliefs about, say, money, they'll try to drag you down, like the crabs in the bucket, always trying to drag the one that gets out. So I had a thought, and part of today's talk is about stimulus and response, right? We'll talk about Viktor Frankl's story later. And I had a thought in that moment because the stimulus was my dad's words, and I was reacting with feeling like garbage. But then I realized, hold on, I don't have to go in that direction. I don't have to respond with that type of thinking. I can change my thinking. And my thinking was, did my mentor tell me anything? They did. They said this would happen. I'll react differently. And so I did. And this is what I said. Dad, let me ask you a question. If I was the top money earner in this company and I was raking in millions of dollars per year, which meant you would never have to work again, I would pay out your retirement. I'd buy you a boat. I'd send you and mom off to Spain and you could do whatever you want. Would that be okay? And then he says, well, that's a different story. If you were the moneymaker, then I'd be okay with it. That was the day love and money was born for me. This whole journey of my whole life I've been lied to by my father, right? Not him, but his belief. Not
his
him,
beliefs, right?
His beliefs, right?
And that's what he knew.
It's what he knew. It's okay. But I realized, oh my God, there's hypocrisy there. And then, as you can tell, I don't even have words for what happened that day when things shifted. And I decided in that moment, I will take the journey to discover this hatred for money and love of money thing. And it's been 8 years since then, but that's the story that prompted it and transformed my life, is when I realized people are lying to themselves on the inside, and it's a plague in the human race.
Yeah, we have a lot of people have money stories, right? Or stories that hold us back, when in actuality we can reprogram those thoughts and really have any outcome we want. We just have to know how to apply the right tools, right, to make that happen.
Another piece of it, which we can talk about today, is expecting the resistant force of your peers, basically. Let's call it the social construct, right? There's this social construct. Some call it the morphogenetic field. In business culture and consulting, it's called morphogenetic field. It's the invisible energy that exists between a group of people, whether it's all of the citizens of America, all of the employees of Microsoft, or all of the family members under one roof. When there's a group of people, there's an invisible morphogenetic field that exists. We'll call it the social construct. That energy, which we're always tied to, it's sort of like the ocean current, right? Even if you're a good swimmer, it'll take you out to sea. So we have to be prepared for the resistant force of that if we're changing our life and our outcomes and our thoughts. And if we don't prepare for that, we're screwed. And that's why a lot of people who do positive thinking work or sort of manifesting work actually never get there, is they haven't accounted for this morphogenetic social construct.
So, and I believe that's part of the reason why a lot of people change their people around them, right? We say we should be around people that are doing things way bigger and better than us, because they're going to bring us with them just through the energy, the social construct that they're in.
Yep. You got it. The old saying, right, is it a rising tide lifts all ships?
All ships, yeah. And I've mentioned a couple times on the show that the eagle chicken story, where the baby eagle fell out of the nest and he fell into a chicken coop, and the mom didn't save him, and the eagle grew up with a bunch of chickens and never knew it could fly, although it kept looking at the sky at these eagles soaring. He could fly, he just didn't know he could, because he has been with chickens his whole life. And of course, he didn't know that he had that ability. So, all right. Well, that's your story of how you got into that. And you do quite a few things. I'm constantly learning new things about you. So can you kind of share a little bit about what your focus is, what you like, the main core of your business?
Yep. There's 3 career paths or purposes I've got. The first one's called subcellular psychobiology. It is also known as peak states therapy. Right? And subcellular psychobiology is the study and then application of how what we call trauma or consciousness is stored in the human body. Right? And through these techniques that I use in my career to help clients, we radically, quickly, and permanently remove limiting beliefs, barriers, judgments on self and other, procrastination, anxieties, et cetera, et cetera. Basically traits of identity that seem impossible to get rid of, that are negative, we can get rid of them. So that's a fantastic piece of my career. I'm very grateful to have that technology. I do business coaching and consulting for wellness companies or other people who, like yourself, do coaching like that, because coaching is the second fastest growing industry on planet Earth, and it doesn't have any regulation. All right. So it needs all the love and help it can get, if you know what I'm saying.
Absolutely.
And so we're committed to helping the coaching facilitation profession not only up its skill, right, stop playing at a low level, but also up its ability to make cash flow and have a bunch of people who are not flopping out of the water, actually swimming in success. So that's our business consulting that we do. Yeah. And then the third thing I do is what I call the Tao. And 5-6 years ago, I met a lady who introduced me to a lady who introduced me to a guy named Carrie. Carrie ran a $200 million company when he was a little younger called Island Inkjet all around the world. And he then introduced me to a guy named Philip, who was one of China's most famous business consultants in the 1990s. Philip is now 70 years old. He spent the last 35 years learning and translating ancient scriptures from Asia, of like old sort of Buddhist, Taoist, spiritual, if you will, technologies, that human wisdom that brought countries and nations prosperity that we don't even have in the modern day, right? And so he's translated that to English in modern style, and he's been teaching it to me for 6 years. And so I also lead groups over 5 days of the week, multiple times a day, teaching this wisdom to others who feel an affinity to it. So that's sort of the third path of career or purpose that I do.
I love that. I love that. So we're going to take a quick commercial break, because I want to make sure we have enough time to talk about how we can turn stress and fear into love and money. So hang tight, Matthew, and hang tight, everybody. We'll be right back. Welcome back, everybody. This is Christy and Matthew Learning, and we're going to talk about how to turn stress and fear into love and money. How do we do that, Matthew?
Okay. Like any good teacher, I'm going to reference those who came before me. So, book suggestion right out of the gate. Okay. The book suggestion is called Busting Loose from the Money Game. If I had never read, in fact, I listened to this book as an audiobook, but if I had never listened to this book, I don't think I'd be here talking about this. It's by a fellow named Robert Scheinfeld. Not sure how to spell it, but Google will tell you. So Robert Scheinfeld, Busting Loose from the Money Game. That's the first step. Check out that book. Here's the essence of it. And this is what I've learned from my Tao, from my subcellular psychobiology, and in coaching. All three areas of my profession line up with this core concept. Every material experience that you ever have is designed to help you create freedom from your karma. This is the core premise.
Freedom from karma.
Freedom from your karma. Karma, just to clear it up, in the definition of karma, in this context, means action and reaction. This is the ancient Sanskrit definition. In modern times, we think it means you're a good person, bad person. Karma's got this funny little connotation to it. It's not what it means. It just means action and reaction, cause and effect. It just means energy. Okay, freedom from karma. So going to Viktor Frankl, anyone here who's read that famous book, A Man's Search for Meaning, has read and learned about his story of escaping the Nazi concentration camp and how he did it simply by being aware of his thoughts. And each time he was aware of a thought, he considered shifting it, and over time accumulated thinking in the right or positive direction, which gave him the right ideas to then escape. And then he escaped under a pile of bodies, and off he went, and it's a crazy story. Lived to be like 80 years old and brought his mission to the world. So the key phrase he gave us is, in between stimulus and response, there's a space. It's another way of saying in between each thought, there's actually a space too. Okay? This is essential because all there is this moment. And tomorrow is just another continuation of this moment. And this is a key premise to turn stress into money. Because all we've got is this moment. Okay. Which means, for me, if I'm on the laptop trying to make money or be happy or find freedom, doing whatever the heck I think I'm supposed to be doing, in that moment, when I'm taking actions, there's a 99.9% chance that my actions are coming from my past beliefs, my past attempts, my whatever. It's called muscle memory. It's always just repeating itself. So that's why it's very hard to get out of the rut we're in life, because everything's coming from the past. The only way to create the future that's new and not the past is to change train tracks, if that makes sense. You know how a train has to train train tracks. But here's the problem. Yep. A train can't change train tracks if it's moving, right? Like it can't, if it's moving slowly. We know a train can slowly, but if a train's at full speed and there's too much, how do I say this? You have to pre-change the track, at least. Let's put it like that.
Right.
So coming into the moment, this moment right now, a human being calming their nervous system is an essential step to creating your future that isn't based on your past, which is, again, how we turn stress into money and love, right? And it's a scientific thing, right? We have 4 types of brain waves. Okay, we have alpha, beta, theta, and delta. And fight or flight, which is our normal day-to-day, fight or flight is beta wave, right? It's fast-moving waves in our brain. We can't really think straight. We're not that creative. It releases cortisol into our bloodstream, right, which creates stress response. And that's what most people are living in day-to-day in our society.
Yep.
So when we take a moment to be in the moment and breathe deeply, or whatever it takes for you to calm the nervous system, you go from beta to alpha, which gives you access to slower brain waves, to more creative energy, making better decisions, and it gives you access to the now. And from the now, you can get that train track shifted and get onto a new path.
Mm.
And if you do that in this moment, then you can then do it in the next moment. And each moment you do it, it becomes a little easier to do it in the next, and then the next, and the next moment. So this is a key scientific brainwave thing. Anyone can Google these studies and realize that if you don't go from beta, which is stress, to alpha, which is calm, you'll never be able to create your future from the now. You'll always make it from the past, which means you'll keep getting the same results. So that's a core concept that what was the fellow's name I was just talking about?
Viktor Frankl.
Thank you. Victor gave us that when he said between stimulus and response, there's a space. And that's where we have our power. So every moment there's a stimulus, what you're seeing, what you're hearing, what you're thinking, what you're looking at, what you're smelling. And in each moment before you respond, which for entrepreneurs could be before I pick up the phone and dial, before I get lazy and put down the phone and don't dial, before responding, there's a space. And in that space, if I can find what we call our true nature, which is living in the moment, you get access to God, right? For those who want to call it God, you want to call it creative potential, infinite intelligence. That's what Napoleon Hill called it. That's where that lives. And it's always here in the moment, always waiting for you. So that's a key premise to dealing with this stuff. So going back to Robert Scheinfeld, Busting Loose from the Money Game. The premise of the book is every single time when you're living your life that you have a thought of lack, right? I don't have enough money, can't afford it. How am I going to pay my bills? What if the client leaves me? What if the client doesn't like me? What if all of these negative future forecasting things, right?
Yeah, all the what ifs.
All of that stuff. If someone steals your car, even. Oh no, they stole my car. I have to pay insurance deductible. I have to deal with that. Now I can't get to work. Now I can't go to any of these negative or lack-based moments. They are our karma, which means our forgetfulness. We have forgotten about our divine nature, our infinite, we call it abundant divine nature. I'm not saying that like in a cliche way. I mean, like actually, we have forgotten our cosmic infinite nature every time we have a lack thought or lack experience. In the book, he calls it an egg. And I call it a little karma seed. That's how I learned it from my teacher. He calls it an egg. And busting loose from the money game is your choice to turn life into a game. And the game is find all the eggs as fast as you can. And when you find the egg, you bust it open. And then as I learned in the Tao teachings, it's pulling out the karma seed and then replacing it with positive. Same concept, different metaphor. So when Christy's living her life, or Matt's living his life, or whoever's listening to this, when you're living your daily life, you have probably hundreds, if not thousands, of micro moments of lack. It happens all the time. Oh, I ran out of orange juice. Oh, man, I'm thirsty. All sorts of options for lack thinking. The game, which you have to install as a belief system, the game is whenever I come across an egg, one of these lack moments, lack thoughts, I have to repeat a mantra in my head to bust open the egg. Now, the mantra in the book, I don't recall it exactly. It's something like, God is infinitely abundant and I am nothing less than that, something, something, something. Some sort of mantra. And he says in the book, you can make up your own or you can use his. I used his. It was really powerful. And I got this book like 7 years ago. And I played the game. And every time I had a lock thought, oh, there's the egg. And then boom, I'd do the mantra and I would transform it. And it's taken me 5, 6, 7 years, but I'm pretty much egg free.
Okay.
Now the peak states therapy work, subcellular psychobiology, that's like rocket launchers for destroying eggs. It's like super outstanding. The Tao destroys eggs, and then the coaching and the mindset stuff destroys the eggs. So as you can see, I have immersed myself. I have burned my bridges, as Tony Robbins said. I've immersed myself, or not bridges, boats, burned my boats, right? I've immersed myself in modalities that absolutely destroy lack thinking and lack moments. And we can pause there and see if there's any thoughts or comments, but this is the idea. The Robert Scheinfeld with the eggs in the book is really the pathway and the game to turning stress and fear into love and money.
Okay, there's so much here. I've got a lot of notes. So I totally get it as an entrepreneur. Even if we get like a great week, right? Everything is in alignment, everything is working the way we planned it to work. There's always going to be something that comes and pulls the rug out from underneath us. Like if it was easy, everybody would do it. If it was easy, we probably as entrepreneurs wouldn't be doing it because there's no challenge in the game, right? We love challenges, typical entrepreneurs. So what I'm hearing from you is anytime we face a challenge, whether it's a real challenge or a perceived challenge that makes us start have this stinking thinking, then we just basically create a state break where we can shift our mindset through the process, right? Whatever the process is that I don't know, because obviously I've not read the book.
Yep. Yeah, it's a great way to sum it up. And it's accurate. Correct. We can dive into the process at some point if you like today, but yes, that's correct.
Okay. Well, do you want to dive into the process?
Yep. Good. I'm not going to do it as Robert does it because you could go read the book.
Oh, right.
But I'll
Let's
do
do
it
it
in a
the
unique
way
way.
Matthew does it.
Mm-hmm. Alchemy. When you hear the word alchemy, what do you think of?
Well, before yesterday, I thought something completely different. But what I know now, and I actually was just kind of amazed by this, that alchemy is the process of turning lead into gold.
Mm-hmm. You're right. So in like the medieval times, thousands of years ago, there was this alchemy was this sort of thing where people tried to turn like lead and coal and iron into gold because gold was the most valuable thing on the earth, right?
Mm-hmm.
And everyone's trying to do it. And in modern times, we look back at those stories. I mean, I went to university 15 years ago and took an English history class, and we went through this book called The Alchemist, all about turning lead into gold. And it was funny because we've made it so materialized in our modern thinking. But a long time ago, in our ancient ancestors, we knew that the material world it still is, a reflection of our internal world. Right? It's a deeper conversation for more than just this podcast. But as they said, who was it who said it? Plato or one of these old Greek philosophers, as above, so below, as within, so without, kind of thing. Mm-hmm. So everything out there is a reflection of in here. So turning lead into gold is a material metaphor for turning stinking thinking into bliss. Right? That's the internal thing. So alchemy as an art actually is an internal process that everyone listening to this audio has access to. Everyone here is an alchemist, but you have to learn or relearn how to do it. And who's ever had feelings? Anyone ever had feelings? Emotions? So feelings and the part of us that is or feels feelings. People on the audio can't see me doing the thing with my fingers.
The hand quotes. He's doing hand quotes.
Okay. When we feel feelings, that's energy. As they say, emotion is energy in motion, right? Emotion, right? So all of that emotion, which is inside of us really constantly, that's energy. And so negative emotion, right? Heavy emotion, painful emotion is the lead, right? And that includes thinking. Obviously, the gold is the positive, the bliss, the happiness, the wanting to serve others, the abundant vitality, the making the right decisions, having good habits. That's the gold. So the alchemy that you and I and everyone has access to is actually the willingness to feel what's going on inside of you in each moment. And there's that key word, moment, going back to Viktor Frankl. Only if someone pauses to live in the moment, this moment, can you really feel what's happening inside you, which is a terrifying place for most of us, especially our minds. Our minds like to be in control. They like to know what's going on. You know how the monkey mind, right?
Right.
When we go into our feeling, our internal world, and give ourselves space for that. These days we call it meditation, right? A lot of people meditate a bit. That's kind of the idea, but actually feeling is even deeper than just meditating. When we get in the moment and we feel what's going on inside us, we become aware of our energy, aka our emotions, our energy in motion.
Mm-hmm.
And in this society, I hope to be wrong about this, but my experience is there's a lot of disturbing emotions. We don't know what to do with them. They're sometimes really negative. They're painful, whatever. We don't want to encounter that. So we stay busy. We stay in the mind. We stay out here. We fill our schedules. We always talking with friends, always watching TV. We stay away from how intense we are feeling on the inside with stuff.
Or we revert to substances, right? Like how
Substances.
many people go into that direction just so they don't feel?
You're right. So, but the feeling in the being, in the body, that is your lead.
Mm.
And the ability, we'll talk about this in a bit, and Robert does it in his book, right? The ability to be with the feeling and apply the right principles gives you access to turn that lead into gold, which is bliss, pleasure, service to others, vitality, cash flow, prosperity, etc. Right? Peace. Okay. So this is the picture. People can see the picture, right? We got lead, we got crappy emotions that we avoid, but they're there inside us. And if we access them, which we can only do in this moment, we can turn them with the right principles into gold, which is everything everyone wants.
Mm-hmm.
It's pretty good. Does that make sense so far?
It's very good. Yeah, it makes complete sense.
Okay. The method or the principles on how to turn lead into gold, which is negative emotions into positive, is you have to see yourself like a compost machine. My teacher calls it the spiritual compost machine, right? Turning lead into gold. Because we know if I got banana scraps, apple scraps, eggshells, whatever, I can put it into compost. Eventually, this compost becomes nutrition for next year's garden. Right?
Yep.
What's the title of today's talk? Turning stress and fear into love and money. It's just a big compost machine. Right? So it's all coming full circle here. Inside our bodies and our beings and our minds and consciousness, this is the compost machine. I know they can't see me because I'm like, we're on audio here.
It's his body. His body's the compost machine.
It's the body. Okay.
Yeah.
Focus on, if you're listening to this, focus on your body right now. Like your body is the compost machine. Okay. And you have all the garbage in there you need. Tons of it.
Plenty. There's plenty of garbage in there, right?
We got landfills inside of us, people. Right. And we haven't been taught how to turn it into gold. Right. And if you have, amen. Get on Christy's podcast next week. So turning it into gold is one where my profession comes in, where I can help clientele, right? With the peak states, with the Tao, or with the coaching, right? That's what Christy does as well in her profession, right? Helps business owners turn their lead into gold and into money, right? So that's why we're on the same team here. The key, without getting too deep about it, because we only have so much time here, or you could ask more, I can say more, but the key, number one, get Robert's book. The key, number two, forgiveness, acceptance, right? Success is simple. Right? It's not necessarily easy. We all know this, but success is simple. And the ingredient, the mechanism that turns the compost, the garbage into the money is forgiveness and acceptance, which for some is easy to do, for some is absolutely very difficult to do, but this is the process. I can share stories about my personal example if you like, but ultimately that's how simple it is.
And we're forgiving ourselves, correct?
You're right. Forgiving self to begin with, very much so. Then forgiving others involved, for sure. Mm-hmm. And then the ultimate forgiveness is the forgiveness of life itself. Right? To forgive God or life or whatever this is that we're part of.
Okay. And just be all accepting, right? All loving and all just accepting, unconditional acceptance.
Mm-hmm. So here's the key, Christy. When you're doing this process, you find some garbage. Oh, want to turn that into gold and money. Oh, I'm just going to accept it. And then you start to accept it genuinely, but then you realize your mind or some part of you starts to resist it. I can't accept that. They wronged me.
Mm.
Or I did such a bad thing. I could never forgive myself for that.
Mm-hmm.
Then how do we deal with this?
Yeah, I know a lot of people, and I'm sure myself at times, that we make excuses, right? We're not embracing something. It's somebody else's fault, or this happened out of my control. But I get where you're coming from. If we can just accept that for what it is, now it puts us in a position of power where we can make new choices or make choices to better that situation. Am I
You're
on the
right.
right track?
You're right. However, I have this
However,
question. This
okay.
question is, how do we deal with our own resistance to forgiving? If I've done something so bad, I don't think I could forgive myself. I don't know how. Or if someone else has done me wrong, and there's no way I could forgive them. It was too long ago, too bad. It hurt me too much. It affected too many people. How do we deal with that resistance?
Well, for me, I, I've learned that if we can't forgive somebody, it gives them the power. I mean, it doesn't hurt them if we don't forgive them. It just hurts ourselves. It's trapping in that negative feeling, that negative energy. I don't know the process to forgive somebody if you can't do it, but for me, I just learned that for me to hold any kind of bad feelings towards anybody is just something that makes my life less. And I've just made a decision not to. So I don't know. Is there a process that if we have somebody that we just can't forgive, that
Yes.
we can make it happen?
Yes. Yes. Of course, there's advanced techniques to make it easier, but here's the idea. And it's so funny. We're really gonna show how success is simple. Okay, so if you're trying to forgive yourself or others so that you can do alchemy and turn your stress into success, that's the whole purpose of this, right? If you find parts of your life, I don't know how to forgive, I can't forgive it, I'm feeling resistance and it hurts, I don't like it. What we do is we then accept that,
Mm, that's
right?
that's good.
I don't want to. Okay, well, accept that you don't want to. Forgive that you don't want to. Oh, crap. Okay. And then all of a sudden, if I sit with that, and here's part of the process, okay? There's this thing called time. We have to give it time. And there's other thing called attention. Right? It's kind of all we got, as that's like our resources in life, is we have time and attention. So our wounds, our negative beliefs, our karma that we hold on to from our ancestors that was passed down, our karma or beliefs we hold on to from our neighbors that told us don't follow your dreams, it's too hard, right? Or whatever else people have said, right? That karma, that baggage, it needs time and attention, just like a kid, like a child, right? Like a wife, like a business, like a husband. They all need time and attention. If you don't give it, they don't get better.
Mm-hmm.
So taking time and giving attention every day to one's wounds, if we want to call it that, to act on the forgiveness process, right, is a small request from ourselves for a huge reward. And that's the key. And if you put yourself in that moment 5-10 minutes a day, right, I like to do it right before I go to sleep. If you do that 5 or 10 minutes a day, your life will change. You do that for 66 days in a row, you'll be a new human being. You'll have new results in your bank account, new results in your life, new results in your relationships, for sure. And then in that process at night, when you're looking back and forgiving yourself or forgiving others, again, if there's resistance to do it, then back out of that, kind of like a like, how do I say, step out of that attachment, and then accept and forgive the resistance for being there, and work at it like in layers like that.
So this has been great. I know for me, I tend to be a very logical person. Like, give me steps, give me strategies, I'll make it happen, right? Just plow through. But there are so many times in my path as an entrepreneur where I thought it was easy and it didn't happen. And that's because there's the stuff between my ears that's creating the problem. And I never even though I'm a personal development junkie and read a ton of these books, I didn't necessarily know the right skills to be able to help me combat some of this stuff. So I really love this. This was really great. You're a great one of giving a lot of books, and this is another good book I'm going to have to get. So love that. I love getting the amazing resources. Is there anything else, Matthew, you want to share before we wrap up today?
People can reach me at my website and send me a message and say, Matt, tell me more about the forgiveness thing. Tell me more about the Viktor Frankl thing. And then I'll communicate with you and serve you until you quit or purchase one of my services or purchase one of Christy's services. One of these three. Otherwise, I suggest staying around people like Christy, because there's a principle in life we call the automatic key-in system, and others know it as the law of association. You become the 5 people you spend most of your time with, and that's essential. And Christy's one of these people that she's a rising tide, right? So if you're a ship in her harbor, boom, you're going up constantly. So just always stick around the right people who got your back, who've been where you've been, and will put their hand down to pull you up. That's the most important principle in life, even more than anything I taught today. Because if the people around you aren't practicing whatever I taught today, then you're going to forget this podcast ever happened. You're not going to review your notes, and life's going to keep going simply by the physics of the law of association, that you become the 5 people you spend most of your time with. But if Christy's practicing this, if I'm practicing this, if you're spending time in our circle, then it will retain itself and become part of your subconscious, and your life will progressively and rapidly get better. And these are just the laws that have been that way forever. So that's my last comment.
I love it. Love it. Love it. Love it. So I just really want to encourage everybody that is listening or that has been listening to the show today. I know I took a bunch of notes, and if you took notes, or if you have a bunch of mental notes and you want to go back, if you're driving and, listen again and write them down, I encourage you to share what you learned with people that you care about, because we retain more if we teach others. Plus you'll be helping them, and you'll be creating your own circle, which is really cool. And if you love our show, please show us some love, give us a review, give us some sort of support so we can keep getting amazing guests like Matthew. We will have the links to connect with Matthew in the show notes on whatever platform you're listening. And I just really want to thank you, Matthew. This was great. I feel like I just got a ton more golden nuggets from you. I always have tons of notes every time we have a conversation. And today was one of them.
Yep. Well, it's a pleasure to be here, Christy, sharing space with you. You got a great show here. And you know what? I like the quote Grant Cardone a lot. And Grant Cardone's got a good book you may have read, right? Be Obsessed or Be Average. And
yes.
Being obsessed with figuring out this game, the money game, as Robert calls it, getting rid of the eggs or the karma seeds and finding freedom, finding bliss. I don't care if it takes me 200 years, 20 years, or 20 minutes. I'm in it to win it because it's worth it. It's the greatest game I could play. And so anyone else on this journey, I invite them to just keep going, never quit, and crush it.
And I do want to add that everybody has access to it. It's not for just a limited few. Everybody has access to play and win the money game, or the freedom game, whatever that looks like to you. So let's hang out together, everybody. Let's stay in the same circle and rise together. So thank you, Matthew. Have a great day. We'll see you on the next show.
Thanks for listening to the Mastery Unleashed podcast, where we believe that everyone can have the business and life of their dreams by turning their mess into their greatest message and following their purpose to help the people who need their newfound wisdom and resources. To learn more, visit masteryunleashedpodcast.com. And don't forget to subscribe, rate, and review to this show.